panic rippled through Washington's most elite gathering as gunfire erupted outside the White House Correspondents' Dinner, triggering a rapid security response and putting investigators on the trail of a man with an unexpected profile. The suspect, identified by a law enforcement official as Cole Thomas Allen, is a 31-year-old from Torrance, a coastal town in California's Los Angeles South Bay area near Santa Monica Bay. As investigators piece together his background and movements, a key question remains unresolved. What led a teacher and engineer to open fire at one of Washington's most tightly secured events?
What you're about to hear sounds unbelievable, but it's real. A man named Cole Thomas Allen is now at the center of a terrifying plot that would have changed this country forever. Talking about a would-be political assassin, a man who tried to run into one of the most high-profile events in America, the White House Correspondents' Dinner, with a plan to take as many lives as possible. And at the top of that list, the President of the United States. Let that sink in. This wasn't random. This wasn't chaos. This was planned. And when we get into his manifesto later in this video, you're going to see just how deep this really goes. But here's the thing. Cole Thomas Allen isn't just one dangerous individual. He may be a warning sign of something much bigger happening right now in this country. Something a lot of people don't want to talk about. And we're going to break it all down because this story doesn't start with him. It starts with a man who somehow is still here today. After his third assassination attempt. President Trump. That's right. Thank God he was unharmed. Some are calling it luck. Others are calling it something else, which is whatever. Ridiculous. Either way, we've got a lot to unpack. So buckle up, because this story goes deeper than you think. Let's dive in, starting with the president's reaction after the shooting. Here we go.
I ask respectfully, why do you think this keeps happening to you?
Well, I've studied assassinations, and I must tell you, the most impactful people, the people that do the most, you take a look at the people, Abraham Lincoln, I mean, you go through the people that have gone through this where they got them, but the people that do the most, the people that make the biggest impact, they're the ones that they go after. They don't go after the ones that don't do much because they like it that way. And when you look at the people that have either, whether it was an attempt or a successful attempt, they're very impactful people. Just take a look at the name.
According to an analysis by the Media Research Center, the numbers are hard to ignore. Across major networks like ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, and MS Now, coverage of Donald Trump during the first 100 days of his first term was reported to be 89% negative. In his second term, that number climbed even higher to 92% negative. Now compare that to Joe Biden during his first and only term, thank God, where coverage was reported as 59% positive. So here's the real question. When the disparity is this extreme, what are we actually looking at? Is it coincidence? Is it bias? Or is it something else, more coordinated? Because at some point, the numbers stop looking random and start raising serious questions about the relationship between political power and the media shaping public perception. Now, in this next clip, you're about to hear two very different sides of the same story. First, we've got Maria Bartiromo and Congressman Jim Jordan breaking down a major development. The Southern Poverty Law Center was indicted by a federal grand jury in Alabama. The charges? Wire fraud, bank fraud, and conspiracy to commit money laundering. This case is being led by the Department of Justice under Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. And it all went down last week. But that's just one side of the story, because right after that, we're going to hear from Senator Chuck Schumer. And he's not holding back. Schumer claims this indictment isn't about justice at all. He says it's political. In fact, he argues that President Trump weaponized the Department of Justice to go after his political opponents, calling this entire case a sham. So the question is, what's really going on here? Let's roll the clip and find out. Take a look.
For the courage, and I want to thank President Trump for his words, and I promise you, justice will be served.
Jim Jordan. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for being here this morning. Give us your reaction.
Good to be with you. And then Todd Blanche was just speaking there. I don't think this should be lost on anyone either. The fact that we have a third assassination attempt on President Trump, in that same week, we learn that the Southern Poverty Law Center has been paying and generating hate, the very hate they're supposed to be fighting, and they've been charged by the Justice Department. I don't think that's an accident that we learn about those two things this same week. This stuff has got to stop. But this left pushing the language and promoting the hate that we now learn that was going on with the Southern Poverty Law Center, so much so that they've been indicted. I don't think that's lost on anyone either this week. Well, I think it's important to remember with the Southern Poverty Law Center, remember, they put themselves out there as the standard. They were the ones who were going to say if you were a hate group, you were an extremist group. Moms for Liberty was extremist. The Family Research Council was some kind of hate group. I mean, they were supposedly the standard, and now we find out they were actually paying people to promote the hate that they were supposed to be fighting, for goodness sake, to the tune of $3 million, according to the indictment that Attorney General Blanche talked about. So this is serious. And I also, the Southern Poverty Law Center was the source cited in the now famous Catholic memo from the Wray FBI, where the Richmond field office had that memorandum where they said if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist. And of course, who do they cite in that memorandum? They cite the Southern Poverty Law Center. So this is the stuff that's got to stop. And we're working on investigating these guys and making sure it does stop.
I mean, you know, also has to stop this idea that it's on both sides of the aisle. I mean, you were there at the baseball game when your colleague Steve Scalise was shot. I mean, the list is long. Charlie Kirk was murdered, of people wanting to take down Republicans and this president. In fact, the shooter, we understand, had a goal of taking down the president or one of his people.
I just want to say a quick word about the deeply disturbing charges the Justice Department has brought against the Southern Poverty Law Center. These charges should send a chill down the spine of every American who cares about free expression and a rule of law in the Justice Department. It should send a chill down the spine of every American who cares about civil liberties and the fight against violence extremism. Let's be clear what this case is all about, is really about. It has nothing to do with alleged wire fraud or with the Southern Poverty Law Center somehow working in coordination with the KKK. That's ridiculous on its face. It doesn't pass the laugh test. It's about Donald Trump turning the Department of Justice into the Department of Vengeance, his own attack dog. He's done it time and time and time again, and when you think it can't get worse, it does. Weaponizing the DOJ to indict civil rights groups is not law and order. It's a message. If you defend voting rights, if you fight white supremacy, you're next. Donald Trump will use the federal government to go after any group that dares to speak out against them.
What we saw Saturday night didn't happen in a vacuum. When you have mentally unstable individuals like Cole Thomas Allen being constantly fed a one-sided narrative, when they're being pushed, provoked, and yes, gaslit, you increase the chances of something like this happening. That's just common sense. And who's driving that narrative? Well, it's a combination of the corporate news media and the Democrat Party. Now, here's the issue. When a story reflects positively on the Trump administration, it either gets ignored or it gets twisted. Take something like the indictment involving the Southern Poverty Law Center. Instead of reporting the facts, the media narrative quickly shifts. Suddenly, it's not about the charges. It's about claiming the system is being weaponized. But keep in mind, indictments don't just appear out of nowhere. They come through grand juries. There's a legal process. Yet, that rarely gets emphasized. So what you end up with is what I like to call the feedback loop. The media reinforces the political narrative, and the political narrative reinforces the media. And for a certain audience, that loop works. Because whether people are fully convinced, heavily influenced, or simply agree with these tactics, it keeps the cycle going. But here's the bottom line. That kind of environment, that kind of messaging, it doesn't calm things down. It escalates them. And that's not productive for the country at all. Not one bit. Now let's see what's in this disturbing manifesto. What Thomas Allen Cole calls the rules of engagement. Check this out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read what I think is the most important part of the manifesto, where he basically admits what his target was, or who his target was. While I'm discussing this, I'll also go over my expected rules of engagement. Administration officials, not including Mr. Patel. I wonder why FBI Director Mr. Patel was excluded. They are targets. Prioritized from highest ranking to lowest. So the highest ranking person is in the administration is obviously the president. Number 2 is J.D. Vance. Secret Service. They are targets only if necessary and to be incapacitated non-lethally if possible. I hope they're wearing body armor because center mass with shotguns messes up people who aren't. Hotel security, not targets, if at all possible, unless they shoot at me. Okay, same thing with hotel security. Same thing with the National Guard. Hotel employees, not at all. They're okay. Yes, not targets at all. In order to minimize casualties, I will also be using buckshot rather than slugs. Less penetration through walls. I would still go through most everyone here. Okay, so it sounds like he's in the hotel writing this to get to the targets. If it were absolutely necessary, on the basis that most people chose to attend a speech by that P word and that R word and traitor, and are thus complicit. But I really hope it doesn't come to that. Wow. So let me get this straight. This guy really thought he was just gonna roll up in the spot like some kind of action hero, like John Rambo or the Terminator, and just start picking off hundreds of trained, armed officers. That was the plan. Take them all down, walk right through the doors, and somehow the president is still sitting there casually enjoying a filet mignon, just waiting to be taken down. Right? Come on. That's not reality. That's a movie playing in his head. Because no rational thinking person believes something like that would ever work. It's just crazy. And when you really look at it, it tells you something deeper. This wasn't just reckless. This was someone who didn't care if he lived or died. That's the part people shouldn't ignore. Somehow he survived. And instead of whatever fantasy ending he had imagined, he's facing the real one, spending the rest of his life behind bars for a mission that never even had a chance. A 31-year-old life with potential, completely thrown away, chasing something that was never real in the first place. What a shame. What a shame. All right, folks, that's it for today's show. If you found value in this video, go ahead and smash that like button. Be sure to share this video with someone who you think will find value in it as well. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and join the channel. And don't forget to tap that notification bell so you're always first in line when we drop new content. Now, before we go, make sure you check out our last video where we break down the record-breaking Michael Jackson movie, Michael. Trust me, it's a classic. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate every one of you for watching. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.